All right, so I am going to show you how to set up a quick little model here in NX. So to open NX, you would just go down to the corner here and type NX and choose the latest version of NX that comes up on the desktop if you're in the lab. Now to make a file, I'm going to say new. I'm going to set my units here to millimeters. I'm going to create a model file, and I'm just going to call it junk model 2 because I probably have a junk model 1. And then I'm going to put it in desktop. I just put it on the desktop. Okay. All right, so it's setting up my model. In order to create a structure, you're always, or most of the time, you're going to create a sketch of some structure. So I select sketch. I'm going to select the plane just by hovering. So I'm going to select the XY plane and say OK. Now it will orient me to that sketch, and I can draw whatever I want to draw, different shapes. That would be the profile of the object I'm interested in. I'm going to create a beam with a rectangle cross-section, so I'm going to do that here by hovering, and so it's going to pick that point. I'm just going to click the mouse there and say OK to that, and then as I drag, it's going to size the box, and this is going to be the end of my beam. So I'm going to make it a width of 60, and I could do that by just moving my mouse around, or I can type, right now it's blue in that box, I can type 60 there. And then to get into the height box, I would use the tab key, and I could type now 30 and hit enter. So now I have the box. Right now, my box, oh, it's all set. Okay, I hit enter. Nope, it's doing it. Okay, see, that's what I wanted to show you. So it doesn't tie the box down until I click somewhere. So I want the box to be in this quadrant. So I'm going to click the mouse there, and now I have my box. All right, I'm done with this. I'm going to say finish sketch. Now I want to turn my box into a beam, so I'm going to extrude it. So I can choose extrude over here. I could choose revolve. If I revolve this, it would make like a puck-like shape. But I'll do extrude. It wants me to select the curve. I'm going to select this curve, and then I can specify the size, and it lets me do positives and negatives for the distances. It's just relative to the position that it's in. So I want my structure to be, let's say, 600 millimeters. And I'm going to leave this Boolean as it is. I could say none, that would be fine. Or inferred at this point would be, since there's nothing else here, it's going to assume that none is probably right anyway. So, okay. So now I have a structure here, and I have a mouse plugged into my laptop. If I hold the roller ball of the mouse down, I can move this structure around. So rotation is pushing the center mouse ball down. If I roll my mouse ball forward, it makes the structure bigger. If I roll my mouse ball toward me, toward my hand, then it makes the object smaller. I'm going to show you in a minute how to create the model out of this, but just for completeness, to do this quickly, let's say I wanted to sketch some other feature on here to make some other structure. So I can make another sketch. I could decide I want it to be on this top surface and say, okay, now it's going to orient to that top surface. I'm going to sketch a circle, so I could kind of come along here, and it's going to interpret, as if I hover by something, it interprets that structure is sort of a reference. So I'm hovering by the midpoint of that line, and I'm going to come out and just click, that's the center, and I'll click again, and that's the diameter. So I can type numbers in or I can just click. Now my circle is done. If I'm done and I just want to stop making circles at this point, I can hit escape. So now I have my circle here. I can say finish sketch, and let's do this. Let's make, let's extrude this too and make a hole in the structure. So if I do extrude here, I can pick my circle. So it'll let me, it's trying to figure out what I want to click. And so I can click that. So now it has the thing I want to extrude. If I rotate, you can see what direction it's going to send that part in. So it's creating something that's very long. I don't want that. So I'm going to say 40, and I'm going to switch this to -40 because I want it to go extrude in the other direction. And then I'm going to, for my Boolean, so there it switched up now, it's giving me a preview. My Boolean could be, I could unite these to put them together, but I'm going to subtract to make a whole. So I do subtract, and I say OK. And it was highlighting that this body, so now I have a hole here. Let's say that I don't want the hole to be this big. I can either select it here and right-click on it, and it should give me, nope, it's just letting me edit the display. So it'll let me delete it there. So I'm going to go over here to where that part is sketched and say right-click, edit. So now I can come here and edit that dimension. So I clicked on that dimension, and I'm going to switch it to 20 and say, well, everything's okay there, so I'll just hit enter. And you can see it's giving me a preview here, this green smaller circle, so that's what it's going to do when I hit close. Oh, did it update? Yes, it did update, but it didn't update my extrude. It should have automatically updated my extrude. So let's see, change my diameter. Oh, okay, so what I did is I changed the diameter, and I did it by editing the sketch. Right now, the sketch is still active, still kind of in edit mode, and you can tell that because it's orange here, and because up here it says finish sketch. So if I hit finish sketch here, now it updated. So now I have this smaller hole. Okay, let's say that I don't want the hole. I don't like it. I can click on the extrude and delete that, click on the sketch and delete that, and now it's gone. So that's enough to at least get you started with a few things. There are more videos on how to do modeling or drawing in the software on Dr. Mazay's website that I posted in week 2 on Blackboard. Or if you'd like, let me know and I'll just sit with you and show you how to do some things. Okay, so we have a structure, it's a beam. I'm done drawing, so I want to go and do some modeling, some FEA modeling. To do that, I need to come over here where it says File, and I've been in this part of the program, actually, I think this is the Shape Studio. What does it say? It says Modeling. Oh, because I'm in it, sorry, this is modeling up here. Because I'm in it, it doesn't appear in my start menu here. To do the FEA, I want to click on this one, pre-post. So I'm going to click that. Now I'm creating a new simulation, so I'm going to click on this, new FEA, FEM, and simulation. I'll click that. It brings up this little pop-up box. It says it's going to send it to Nastran. I could pick another software here, like Abacus or LS-DYNA. If I was using this as a modeling code and then I wanted to output things to open it up in a different code. But we're going to use NX Nastran. That's for us here at Kettering. That's the solver that we use with this package. It's going to be a structural analysis. And bodies to use, all visible. So really there's nothing to change here. These are the defaults. If you're doing structural modeling, it will automatically come to this. So all you need to do at this is say, okay. All right, so now it brings up this menu, and we're doing solution type 1, linear statics, and that's all good. There's really nothing that you need to change here in this. Maybe later this term we'll do some contact analysis and we'll do some changes here, but this is all set, so we just say, okay, the defaults are fine. So now what it's done is it's created two files. It's created a simulation file, which is what we're in right now, and I know that I'm in the simulation file because up here at the top it says simulation. It's also created an FEM file, and it's kind of strange that there are two files, but that's just how this works. So let's see, I'm going to say make this the displayed part, so I just switched over, so now it will say that I'm in the FEM file. You don't have to do that, but I usually work in the FEM file, and then I will go into the sim file. These are the element types I can use. So if I want to use this 3D TET element, I'm going to select the body, and then I can choose a 4 or a 10. So the 10 is a better element because it has more nodes, so it won't take as much. The software suggests a size, so since I have this little body selected, if I hit this little arrow here, it will suggest an element size, and it says 43.1 millimeters. What we usually tell students is that from experience, this number's at least twice as big as it really should be. So if it's saying 43 millimeters as an element size, I'm going to go with, let's just do 20 millimeters as the element size. So that'll be the size of the side of the triangles that it makes. And then I can just hit OK or apply, either one, because we just have one body, and say OK, and it's going to create that mesh. So you can see the mesh of triangles. If I wanted to, let's say that I don't like this mesh and I wanted to do the 3D elements. So I would come up here where it says more, and in here it has a 3D swept mesh. So this code prefers to do 3D elements for structures that are relatively simple in geometry. So if I click on this, that swept mesh means I'm going to put this on one part of the body, and then it's going to copy it across the body. So I guess I'll just leave that as it is. I'm going to pick this face at the end, and right now it's for an 8-noded element. So there's an 8-noded and a 20-noded. So the 8-noded will give you a constant stress across the element, and the 20-noded will give you a variable stress, a linearly variable stress. You don't need as many of these 20s. So I'm going to try it with the 20 because I think I used the 8 last time I did this. And so let's try the 20. The element size, I want to, again, I'll just click on that, and now it's going to suggest a size. So I'm going to say, because this is, I don't want this to take a long time to run, I'm just going to make the size 10 millimeters, and I can do a preview to look at it, and it's going to, tells me it's going to delete the mesh that's there, and I'm okay with that, and say okay. So I see with this mesh size that I'm going to have 3 elements through the thickness. Since the stress is going to be linear through these elements, maybe that's okay. So I guess we'll just leave that, but we could adjust it if we wanted to, and hit OK. So now we have our mesh. Our next step to do here would be to assign our materials. So if we click on Manage Materials, you can see the materials that are built into the software. If you come up here to the right, you can go to Local Materials, and this allows you to create your own materials for things that aren't already in the software. So you would go to Local Materials, then come down here to the right corner and click on this Create Material. And then you could give it a name, and you need to at least have Young's modulus and Poisson's ratio. At least those, to be able to have the code run with your material. I'm going to pick a material that's already existing. So I'm going to close that. So manage materials would be if you wanted to look at the materials, if you wanted to edit or create your own material. I need to assign the material to my beam, so I'm going to go here where it says Assign Materials. I'm going to select this body, and then I'm going to pick my materials. So I'm just going to pick 6061 aluminum. It's a very common aluminum, and say OK. So now it knows the material. It has a mesh. These two things are the things that you take care of in the FEM file. Now I need to go to the simulation file to create the load and the boundary conditions. And I can either do that here. I can click here where I'm highlighting and right click, and it will say Display Simulation, and I can click on that here. Or alternatively, I can just go up here to this little window and then go down here to the simulation file. Either way. All right, so here's the simulation file. The simulation file has loads and different things you can do to check your elements, but mainly we're going to use it just to load our structure. I'm going to create a constraint. So I want this to be, let's say that this is pinned. And so I want it to be a pinned constraint. And so do I really want to do it? You know what I'm going to do is I'm going to just use this user-defined constraint because this is the one I like the best. So if it's a pin, that means that if I look on this lower end here, this object, so it's kind of highlighting lots of different objects. I want just to highlight the bottom edge. So I'm going to click on the bottom edge as the object. That's where I'm gonna apply my my constraint here. If it's a pin attached right where that line is, the orange line, then that pin will allow rotation about the y-axis, but it will not let it go in the z direction or in the x direction. So x is degree of freedom 1, so I'm going to say fixed. Z is degree of freedom 2. I'm going to make that fixed. And actually, I'm going to go ahead and fix the y as well, just like it's a captured roller. And then it will be free to rotate about the y-axis. So I'm going to leave that one. That's degree of freedom 5. Degree of freedom 4 is rotation about the x-axis, and I'm going to make that fixed so it can't rotate about the x-axis, and I don't want it to rotate about the z-axis either. So that's degree of freedom 6. So I'm going to say fixed for that and say OK. All right, so it just says there's a user-defined constraint there. This other end, I want this to be a roller down here, so I'm going to go through and create like a roller on this. So a constraint, and I'm going to do the user-defined constraint again. I'm going to go down to this bottom edge. Yeah, I want just that edge. And if this is a roller, then I don't want it to go up or down or in the Y direction, but I want to allow it to be free along the X. So it's free along X, it's fixed in the Z direction. It can't go up or down. It's supported. It's fixed in the Y direction. It is free to rotate about the Y axis, but rotation about Z and X are not allowed. So let me fix this, and I will fix, what did I say? Don't want rotation about X. Okay. And there we go. So I'm at 20 minutes now. I'm gonna stop the recording, and then I will make a final recording of the last steps.